This is The Toss-Up, where an expert line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. Well, last year's men's soccer team had it all. The Hoosiers had Mac Herman Trophy winner Andrew Gutman, who now has a contract with a team in the Scottish Premiership. And they had an elite goalie in Trey Muse, who signed in the MLS. And with 8 all-conference players, 8 in the conference, IU was a favorite to win it all in the College Cup. Then, Maryland happened. Indiana lost in the semis, and this year had the task of replacing pretty much the entire starting lineup. Things were going pretty well this season, but then Maryland happened. Indiana's only conference loss came at the hands of the Terps, and now here we are, the Big Ten tournament time, where Indiana and Maryland will face off once more. So, can the Hoosiers finally get that revenge over the Terrapins? And what comes next? We'll talk about it all right here on The Toss-Up with my incredible panel. We have Jared Kelly for the IDS. We've got Maya Engel right here, homegrown IUS TV Sports, and Sam Niederman from the Big Ten Network. Welcome to the show, and we're getting right into this, ready to talk about some men's soccer. Awesome. So, as I've already mentioned, we just got to start off with the elephant in the room. What is it about this Maryland team, Jared, that Indiana can't seem to beat?
Yeah, you know, every year it seems like it's down to Indiana and Maryland for the Big Ten championship. And once again, we're left in the spot, but this time it's in the semifinals. It surely feels like a finals match. Earlier in the season, Maryland shut out Indiana 3-0. In that match, Indiana looked poor in defense, poor in offense. So, once again, it's going to be a tough match for Indiana to get past.
Yeah, just one of 2 losses all season for this Hoosier team, coming in what you could call a blowout against the Terrapins. What's Indiana going to need to do against the Terps to sort of swing their luck, Maya?
You know, personally, I don't think the team should be too concerned. I mean, since that loss, Coach Yeagley said it himself, the team has learned so much from then, and they've been playing some of their best soccer. They are on a 5-game win streak. They have outscored their opponents, I think, 16-2. So they're playing really good right now, and I think one thing that's going to be a little different from the last time they faced off is not only do last year's returning players have some revenge against the Maryland team for, beating them in the College Cup, but now the new guys have a reason to beat them with that 3-0 loss.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game come Friday night because I think Sasho Sorovsky, Maryland's manager, kind of has Indiana figured out. When you go back to the College Cup last year, you go back to earlier in this season, the Terps have outscored the Hoosiers 5-0. I mean, Indiana hasn't found a way to get their powerful offense into the other end of the field and finish at the net. So I think that's going to be a huge thing come Friday night. Can Indiana get off to a nice start offensively, especially on the road in a hostile environment at Ludwig Field?
So what do you think? I know A.J. Palazzolo wasn't really a fan of the idea of Maryland having Indiana's number. Is that a thing that you believe in, or is this just a bad stroke of luck?
I think they've kind of got them for now, and Indiana's going to have to find a way to get the monkey off their back. You think about the way that Maryland has sort of rethought their shape for when they play IU. It's very defensive. It's very tight at the back. They got a couple of good bounces in the regular season 3-0 win, and they're going to need the same kind of bounces if they want to pull out a postseason win again. But I think it's kind of a thing of which can Indiana solve that defensive puzzle.
Okay, so let's say that Indiana does solve it, or even if they don't. Likely the Hoosiers are going to the national championship tournament. And so, Jared, where would you say that Indiana really stacks up in those ranks just nationally with anyone? I mean, they've been ranked all over the place this season.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of fluctuation at the top of the top 25 this year. Indiana, I think they came in at number 4 to start the season. As of right now, they're number 8. So obviously Indiana's up right there in the top 10. They haven't shown as much dominance as we've seen in previous seasons. Obviously last year they had that spectacular run. I think they can definitely make a run. It's going to be tough, though, with all the newcomers they've had, so it's going to take a lot.
What do you think, Maya?
I think it's kind of hard to say because the Hoosiers haven't really played a lot of tough teams outside their conference. And it's a very different league than we saw last year. Last year, 3 of the 4 College Cup teams were in the Big Ten Conference. And this year, if you look at the rankings, it's really the ACC Conference that's dominating between Wake Forest, Clemson, Virginia, all those guys. And Indiana hasn't faced any of them yet. So it's hard to say where the Hoosiers fit into that mix, but I agree. I do think they are a top 10 team.
Yeah, right there with you, Maya. I mean, the ACC's been stacked this season. Big Ten, a little bit down. And we've seen Indiana get exposed a little bit away from home. Had a tough loss against Butler at the Selleck Bowl in September. Then obviously at Ludwig Field against Maryland. Should be a little bit of a different environment than, say, going up against Rutgers or Ohio State at home at the end of the Big Ten campaign.
And so you all have been watching this team all season. And as you all have mentioned, a very young team, but still top 10 potential. So let's get broad for a second. What are some of the biggest strengths that Indiana has going for them heading into the later rounds of the Big Ten tournament and the Nationals?
Number one, they got a great home field advantage. I mean, they do not lose at home. I think we can all agree with that. They do not lose at home, and the next time that they do, it's going to be a really good team that takes them down. Number two, they just have top quality. The freshmen have really grown. We've seen Josh Penn and Aiden Morris blossom. Those two can distribute. They set others up and make others better within Indiana's squad for their offense. I think that they're just sheer technique on the ball is usually a good step and a half ahead of everybody else that they play, and that usually helps them outmuscle whoever they're up against.
Yeah, and coming into this season, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a weakness that it was such a young team. But I think the freshmen have been one of the biggest strengths for this Indiana team. I mean, you mentioned it. Josh Penn's leading the way with 6 goals. Victor Becerra, 5 goals, couple assists. Aiden Morris, 2 goals, 6 assists. The freshmen are the ones offensively who are getting things going for the Hoosiers, and if it wasn't for them, who knows if this team, where they'd be offensively. So I honestly think that the young guys are one of the biggest strengths for this Hoosier team.
Yeah, exactly. And then to add on to that, obviously defense has been a calling card for Coach Todd Yeagley throughout his entire tenure here. He loves to sit back in the first half and kind of let the opponent tire themselves out, show everything they have. And then second half, it's just, Hoosiers blitz on offense. So if the defense can get going right away, I think they definitely have a chance of going far. Yeah,
definitely tons of potential with this team. But let's say maybe the defense doesn't sort of go the way that it's planned. What are some of the holes in this Indiana team that could come back to haunt the Hoosiers later on, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about the immense talent they have. But, the inexperience at some point is going to, show itself. Like we said, they have, I think at one point they were playing 7 freshmen in the starting lineup. Come NCAA tournament time, especially now in the Big Ten tournament too, it's just going to be hard to replace that kind of experience that they had last year in the previous years.
Yeah, and one thing that we saw haunted the Hoosiers in that Maryland match was once the defense broke down in that first goal, they couldn't really bounce back and get things going. Maryland ended up scoring their 3 goals in, I want to say, 15 minutes.
Yeah, first 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so they just need to work on bouncing back and keeping their heads high after if a team does score a goal on them and not letting them come back and score 2 more after that.
Yeah, this isn't a team that's built to play from behind necessarily. I think they're good when they can get up, and then Todd Yeagley, we've seen him do it late in the year. A lot of Brett Beebe coming in to play holding midfield, give Aiden Morris and Joe Schmidt a little bit of a breather. And the other thing is, I think this team has a little bit of a weakness with their final third. Can they finish? Do they have that bite at the top of their lineup to put one in the back of the net when they really need a goal? That's when you had Andrew Gutman last year,
I was just
right?
thinking that.
When you need a goal,
tough without him.
You can go to number 15, right? Well, they don't have that, and they're looking for it from Spencer Glass a little bit, but they just don't have that lethal kick in their final third. And I think that's where this team could just, if they find a way to convert in their area of the game, they could be one of the best in the country.
So a very deep team is what I'm hearing, but no real standout player? Is that what?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a unit. It's more by a committee. You don't really know who's going to step up on a given night. Could be anybody's night.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we're having a fun night tonight, but we're going to get a little more into it, have a little bit of back and forth, some games, make our own predictions. So coming up after the break. So everybody, stick with us.
Todd Yeagley knows what it feels like to be on top. After clinching the Big Ten regular season crown in back-to-back years and his third since he took over this program in 2010, the good times for the men's soccer program keep rolling on here in Bloomington. This year's team winning the conference regular season title might just be his most impressive accomplishment so far. He lost Mac Herman Trophy winner and Andrew Gutman. He lost 10 starters from last season's squad, 9 of which are playing elsewhere currently in the professional ranks. He lost senior leadership, the lone senior to start in their quarterfinal match against Ohio State last Sunday. How about Simon Waver, who wasn't even on this team a year ago? He is Houdini. He is Copperfield, a true magician. Todd Yeagley can turn any roster into a group that can compete for a national title each season. And many of his players have echoed this idea too. Jack Mayer has said repeatedly this season that Indiana does not rebuild, they retool. His prowess as head coach is starting to shadow what his father Jerry was able to accomplish at Indiana for 30 years before his retirement back in 2003. Does this team have a storybook ending in the making? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But if this team goes the distance and wins it all, this might just be Todd Yeagley's greatest coaching performance yet, and one of the greatest in all of college soccer history. Drew, I'll kick it right back to you.
Thank you, Jordan. And you said it, Houdini, Copperfield. What comparisons, especially for a soccer coach. But thanks for coming back to the toss-up. Now, it's game time for us. Jordan just kicked me the ball. I can't really pick it up. I'm not supposed to use my hands. It's the rule that I've been told. But so we're going to start off on this game. This game is called No Repeats. And I'll explain the premise. It's pretty simple. We're going to go around the panel. I'm going to ask you a question, and you can't repeat a previous answer. So Sam's going first. Maya can't repeat what Sam says. Simple as that. So we'll just get going right off the bat. What has been, Sam, the team's biggest win this year?
There are a lot to choose from because obviously Indiana wins. But I'm going to go with Wisconsin in the Big Ten opener. 3-1 at the middle of September. They needed a win to kind of show that they were still at the top of the Big Ten after going 8-0 last season, and they delivered. Got a couple of late goals. Once again, they were able to find a way to steal a game late. Daniel Muni scored to make it 2-1, and then we saw Malum Gumbali's first goal as well on that little breakaway when Wisconsin had a lot of guys forward. I think that was a huge tone-setting win for them in the conference to make it back-to-back regular season Big Ten championships.
So now, Maya, you can't say Wisconsin, but
Okay.
This question's a little more broad. There's,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, a whole range of wins to choose
A lot
from.
of
So
wins.
Maya, biggest win this year that wasn't Wisconsin.
It's a tough question because, as we talked about earlier, the Hoosiers really haven't played that many super competitive teams outside of their conference, and the teams they did play, like Kentucky, ended up in a tie, Notre Dame in a tie. So I'm going to have to say, I guess based on rankings, I would say the biggest win was the Penn State 3-1 win at the beginning of October.
Yeah, definitely solid win. So there's 2 Big Ten teams off the board, Jared. Who do you got for us?
Maya kind of stole mine there. That's all right.
Sorry.
Rules of the game.
It's all right. I do have another one in mind, though. It's actually the 5-1 win they had against Evansville. That game right after they took a 3-0 loss to Maryland. It was interesting to see if the Hoosiers would be able to bounce back after such a kind of demoralizing loss. And, 5-1 win. Evansville, obviously not a great team, but to come back at home, it was really a nice jump start because they won 5 straight after that. So it was definitely a huge game for them.
Yeah, you said it. Not only did they bounce back, they bounced back big.
Yeah.
Great wins all around. So now, Sam, you went first last time, so you're going last this time around. We're
Okay,
going
snake
over to
draft.
Maya. Yeah, this is how we're going to a little bit of a snake. I don't know. I'm pushing you off to the side for a second. So Maya, this question's going to be a little more difficult, so you get to go first on this one. Who is the team's MVP? We mentioned earlier it's sort of a deep team, not a star player. But this season, who has been the best player?
We talked about this a little before, and everyone thought there was a few different players. But to me, I think it's obviously Jack Mayer. I mean, he's the 2019 Defender of the Year. He's helped the Hoosiers only allow 15 goals in the whole entire season. And, so moving on from defense, though, he also is insanely good offensively. He has scored 2 game-winning goals for the Hoosiers, had a couple assists. He's just one of those guys for Todd Yeagley's team who can come in and he gets the job done defensively and offensively. He's just all-around MVP.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, midfielder Aiden Morris. He's been outstanding this year, obviously. He was awarded the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Todd Yeagley called him a cage tiger because, he's everywhere on the field, whether it's, all the way back in his box defending, or all the way in opposing team's box setting up chances for other teammates. He's pretty much done it all this year, and he's been so crucial for the Hoosiers.
Right,
Two
Sam.
really good picks there. That would have been mine.
Can't
I
use the mayor, you
remember-
can't use the tiger. What do you need? What do you go to now?
I think I'm going to go with, I'll take another freshman, Josh Penn. He's been really good down the stretch here. We've seen a little bit of how he can get crafty with the ball, distributes to his team. I love Mayer, and we haven't heard too much about him this year, which is a good thing when you play defense.
Right.
You don't want to be popping up too much. That means you're doing your job. And Morris has been terrific on the ball. But Penn has really given Indiana a little bit more quality in that final third. Good on the wing. Also is an unselfish player. Likes to get the ball to his teammates first before he shoots it. I think that's a really good quality to have. So I'll take Josh Penn as this team's MVP.
Yeah, all great picks. And so now, Jared, you haven't got to go first yet, so I'm going to give this one to you. Sorry, Maya. You're in the back of the line this time around.
Happens.
Which player, Jared, was the biggest surprise this season?
I'm going to have to go with another freshman, forward Herbert Endley. He's been great this year. Initially when he came into this recruiting class, he wasn't even one of the highest ranked guys. He was a guy that we thought could probably project to be a future, starter impact player sophomore year, maybe junior year. But he stepped into the starting lineup this year, and he's just been awesome on the outsides. He's probably the fastest guy on the team as well. If you've seen him play, he's just everywhere in the field. So him setting up balls for people, and even he had a golden goal for himself in OT. So he's just been really crucial to the team.
Yeah, and it sounds like you took Maya's pick, so I guess it's a little bit of payback
Yep.
from
Yes,
earlier in the
true.
game.
Now we're even.
So, all right, Sam, if you can't pick
I'm
Herbert
going to
Endley.
go with Daniel Muni. Okay, center back, redshirt freshman. Not sure too many people knew about this guy coming into the year. St. Louis area kid, has really good chemistry with Jack Mayer. He did a really good job in terms of defending this season. Came in at the end of September. It's been really physical, really solid, can kind of match that quality of Big Ten defending. I thought he was a big surprise, a crucial surprise for Indiana when they needed some more depth on their back line.
All right, Maya,
You guys are
you
making
get the
this
last
tough
draw once
for me.
again.
I was
Yeah.
going to say Herb. So I'm going to go with the freshman goalkeeper, Roman Celentano. And I'm saying this because he came in kind of halfway through the season when senior captain Sean Caulfield, he played the first 8 games and he allowed 8 goals. So I think Coach Yeagley just wanted to mix it up a bit and see what the freshman could do. And since Roman was in front of the net, man, he's been really good. I think I didn't expect him to make some of the saves that he's made, and he's only allowed, besides the Maryland game, he's only allowed 4 goals the entire season. So I think he's, for me personally, the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. And also, let's mention that 8 goals in 8 games, that's one a game. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the quality of this Indiana
The
team that
Indiana
we've seen,
standards.
where there's a standard that I guess is a little higher than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've turned in 3 clean sheets in their last 4 matches. And that's
Yeah.
exactly where they want to be coming playoff time. At the end of the year, you'd rather be playing good defense and good offense, I think. And Indiana's finding their stride defensively. They've found the chemistry. They know when they're going to get out of Spencer Glass as their left back. They like the veteran leadership that Simon Wavers provided on that right flank. And then the 2 center halves have been really terrific with Mayer and Muni. I think if you want to win at this time of year, you got to have good defense. And right now they've got it.
Yeah, it's a great time of year for Indiana to be clicking, but now we're approaching the December of our show, if you want to look at it, or November if we're talking about the college soccer season. But we're getting into our quickfire round, so we're going to go around. This is where we get to make our predictions. So this is where you're going on the record with your takes on how these upcoming tournaments are going to go. So Sam, I'm going to start with you. How far in the NCAA tournament does Indiana go? It's a big question.
The Hoosiers will go as many home games as they have +1. That's how many games they're going to win in the NCAA tournament. I think they're pretty unbeatable at home. They've built a fort around Jerry Yeagley Field, know how to defend it. It'd take a really good quality team, like I said earlier, if they were to find a way to pull off an upset against Indiana on the road. Will they be able to beat a Stanford or a Clemson if they had to go there for a final 8, depending on seeding? I don't know. Can they get all home games through the quarterfinals and then make it to the College Cup? I think they have a chance to put themselves in a national final, but I don't think this team has that lethal kick to win it all.
That's a good point about how they play at home. I think the Hoosiers will for sure make it to the Elite 8. I want to say I believe they can make it to the Final 4. I don't think they can make it any further than that, just because last year's team was the team that everyone had so much confidence in, and we thought they were going to win it all, and they couldn't get past the Final Four. So I don't think they can jump that obstacle, but I do think they have the potential to make it to the Final Four.
So Maya's saying a repeat performance of last year. Sam's getting technical with the answer. I still don't really know what that means in terms of where they're finishing.
Quarterfinal or national semi. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So Jared, what do you have?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth with this one. It's just so tough because the ceiling is so high, but then there's also the floor of the inexperience with all the young guys. If I had to pick, though, I'd probably say the Elite Eight is where their run ends. I just think once they start getting the bulk of those teams that are ahead of them, like Sam said, the Stanfords, it's just going to be tough for them, and I don't know if they can put it away like that.
Yeah. So for this team to get to the Elite Eight, several players are going to have to step up. But give me the one player that you think at the end of the season is IU's tournament MVP, whether that be Big Ten tournament and the Nationals. Jared, I'm going to send it to you for this.
Okay. That's tough.
It's really tough.
You know, I'm going to take the safe pick here. I think it's gonna have to be Jack Mayer. You know, he has been tremendous this year. He's won, I think, 2 different Big Ten Defensive Player of the Weeks. Obviously, the Big Ten Defender of the Year as well. He's going to have to be crucial this year in helping to stop balls on the back line. And I think the Hoosiers will go as far as Mayer can take them, honestly.
Yeah. Sorry, the questions are getting tough here on
Yeah,
the
they are
toss-up.
getting so tough. Am I allowed to repeat?
Yes, you're allowed to repeat this time. Sorry.
Okay.
Our previous segment
No
is
repeat.
over, so you're allowed your little bit of leeway now.
I'm going to say ditto to that. I definitely think Jack Mayer is the MVP. I already said it once. Say it again.
There you go. Sam, are you sticking on the Mayer train?
I'll say Spencer Glass. If Indiana's going to make a deep run, it goes to their captain. He's got to be really good on that left flank, and they've gotten good defense out of him this year. I think Todd Yeagley and his staff are really just itching for Glass to kind of get that one last signature moment. We saw a little bit of it with his goal against Michigan, but other than that, it just hasn't had that same kind of service that he had a year ago, and we know it's in there. I mean, we know his left foot is one of the best in the nation. 8 assists a year ago, but a different role now that he's playing a full 90 minutes day in and day out, opposed to coming off the bench like he did last year. But I think Spencer Glass is going to be this tournament MVP for Indiana.
So what I'm hearing is Spencer Glass needs to break through the glass.
Yes.
I apologize for that one right as I said it, but I couldn't resist that opportunity. All right, so the last question of the show, we're going to make this one a 2-parter. The first part is, does this Indiana team actually follow through and win the Big Ten tournament this year? And then to follow that up, do they make a run to the College Cup? I guess a repeat performance of last year. So Sam, what do you say to either of those questions?
Okay, I guess I'm kind of forced to clarify how many games they win.
We're making you lock it down now.
I'll start with the conference tournament. I think they get the double again this year. I think they find a way to pull it out this weekend in College Park. I think they get the revenge over Maryland. It'll probably be a close game. I'm feeling maybe penalties like we saw last year. I think both teams will dog it out, potentially through overtime. But I think after they win that match, it could be smooth sailing. Penn State's a good offensive team. I think they get out of the other side of the bracket against Michigan. But I like Indiana to beat either of those teams if they're able to get through Maryland. So I'll say that the Hoosiers win another trophy and take it back home this weekend in College Park. And to finish it off, I'll give you a definitive here,
All right,
Drew.
here we go.
I'm going to
Moment of
say
truth.
Indiana does not make the College Cup this year. It sits at 20 for the program. I think we're going to see it upset finally at home, actually. I think we finally see this team maybe cough one up. I think they'll get into that top 8 national seed to where they have home field advantage before it comes to a College Cup semifinal. But I do think that they might come up a little bit short, so I'm going to say that their run ends after a national quarterfinal.
All right, what do you think? Both tournaments, Maya, where do you have the Hoosiers landing?
I agree with Sam. I think if they can beat Maryland this weekend, they should be able to clinch the Big Ten title. And like I said before, I think they can make it to the College Cup. I believe in them. I've seen them play from day one, and I've seen them grow each and every game. And I think at the beginning of the season, when we saw all those overtime games, the freshmen were kind of timid. And then later on, you see Becerra and Penn and Endley scoring all these goals, and they're like, okay, wait, like we're getting into the groove. We can do this. So that momentum just kept building and building, and I think it's going to take them all the way to the College Cup.
All right, Jared, wrap it up for us. What do you have?
I think definitely the Maryland game is going to be the toughest here. If they can get past them, it's going to be smooth sailing the rest of the way. Obviously, they have to maintain their composure against Maryland. It's definitely going to be a tough game, like they said, probably PKs, in my opinion as well. I will say they do probably win the Big Ten championship. However, I think, like I said before, their run probably ends just shy of the College Cup. But it'll be tough.
Okay, so we seem to have a relative consensus, a little bit of a breaking off, but the toss-up panel does believe that the Indiana Hoosiers will win the Big Ten tournament and make a run at the College Cup at the very least.
We are optimistic.
Yeah,
We believe in these Hoosiers.
We'll be seeing a couple more games here in Bloomington, that's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for being on the show, and thank you for watching. That does it this week for us, but be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. So toss it up and find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.